1. A brief history of the Caucasian Shepherd. The ancestors of the Caucasian Shepherd come from the extensive Caucasian region and have been selected for centuries under harsh conditions. Huge flocks were guarded by them against predators and thieves in the most extreme weather conditions, where temperatures often fluctuated between -30 and +40 degrees Celsius. Almost every country in the region professes the breed, but the truth is that it gained its final form, known today, after World War II, in the famous Soviet state-owned Red Star Kennel, where the breed was consciously shaped to be what is today. In many parts of the world, they are sometimes called the Caucasian Bear Killer Dog, which is a completely misleading name. There are not any dog breeds in the world that are capable of killing an adult bear. The Caucasian Shepherds were recognized by the FCI in 1984 as a standalone breed. 2. The personality of the Caucasian Shepherd. The Caucasian Shepherd is an extremely independent, autonomous, dominant in nature, difficult to subordinate. Due to their past, they like to solve their tasks independently. Owners have limited control over their management. They are fundamentally distrustful of anybody who does not belong to their family and other dogs, often aggressive, and with all this, their natural aggressive instincts can only be changed within narrow limits, but this is not a goal among breeders. They are very effective protectors of all types of valuables and against all types of attacks that you must effectively prevent. For all these reasons, the Caucasians have the necessary strength and action. 3. The size and coat of the Caucasian Shepherd. The upper limit of the weight of the Caucasian Shepherd is not determined by the breed standard, but their typical weight can be between 50 to 80 kilograms. Their average height is between 65 to 75 centimeters. Their hair can be short, long, but also a temporary type. Their undercoat is extremely thick and is expected to be a lighter color than top coats. Their colors can range from light gray to shades of rust brown, and a black mask on the muzzle is desirable, which gives the breed a noble yet distinctly alarming look to the average person. However, black color and spots on the body surface are not accepted. 4. Training of the Caucasian Shepherd. The Caucasian Shepherd has extremely strong instincts to guard and protect naturally. For these tasks, no training is required. Because they had to solve these tasks alone throughout their past, Western type of working dog training is not suitable for them, and guard training is not desirable or recommended, as further stimulation of their aggressive instincts can be extremely dangerous to their environment. In the case of the Caucasian Shepherd, the socialization that starts immediately from the age of 8 weeks into many occupations are extremely important, as this is the only way to integrate properly into the family environment. Caucasian Shepherds are more likely than others to override the owner's command and make an independent decision in any situations, as this has been expected of him for centuries. 5. The activity of the Caucasian Shepherd. The Caucasian Shepherd is not an extremely demanding breed, but at the same time they basically need large spaces, the freedom, and the possibility to feel, preserve and protect their territory. It is a serious mistake to keep a Caucasian in tight spaces, in an apartment, or even tied up. It is extremely important to understand the real needs of this breed. If somebody does not understand this, cannot give enough space for this dog breed, will certainly cause distortion in the behavior and the personality of this dog, which can be very dangerous even for their owners. Despite their giant size, in a case of emergency or danger, they can be lightning fast and it is impossible for anybody to run away if attacked by a Caucasian Shepherd. 6. The health and lifespan of the Caucasian Shepherd. The lifespan of a Caucasian Shepherd is typically 10 to 11 years, bitches usually live 1 to 2 years longer. The breed is basically not only robust in stature but also in health. They are less likely to be affected by dysplasia compared to other large dogs. Recently, ectropion and entropy have appeared among them, which means a pathological turning of the eyelid outwards and inwards, respectively. 7. And finally, the last question, and a Caucasian Shepherd is a right choice for a first-time dog owner? In the case of the Caucasian Shepherd, the answer to this question is quite definite and clear: no, by no means. In fact, to put it a little more strongly, we can say that it is definitely forbidden. Educating and socializing the Caucasian Shepherd requires tremendous experience, a lot of patience and hardness. A properly managed Caucasian can be a reliable and loyal companion for the right owner, but it is not the kind of dog who tolerates upbringing mistakes or weakness, and not the dog breed with whom a first dog owner can try how to raise a dog. As the Gatling machine guns were not handled by mimosa souls in the World War trenches, one of the big guns of dogs, the Caucasian Shepherd is also not for amateurs.
1. A brief history of the Central Asian Shepherd. The history of the Central Asian Shepherd is very long, the time and process of which are estimated by sinologists to be thousands of years old. Their ancestors may have originated from the steppes between the Caspian Sea, Asia Minor, and the northern Chinese border, and several countries in the region claims the breed as their own. They were formed by nomadic pastoral peoples, and their job was to accompany and protect the huge flocks and protect them against predators and occasionally human gangs of robbers. Unbelievable conditions prevailed in these areas at the time, and these dogs could not count on anybody's protection against anything, as they were the ones to protect the property entrusted to them. It was a millennial selection process where only the strongest, the fittest and the healthiest ones could survive. 2. The personality of the Central Asian Shepherd. The Central Asian Shepherd is a proud, calm and extremely strong, independent breed who doesn't back down from anything. They have above-average area guard instincts, and if they feel that their flock, those living in their surroundings, are threatened by any danger, they immediately attack, and the attack of a Central Asian Shepherd is irresistible. Since in the past they had to decide on its own in the huge areas of tens of thousands of square kilometers most of the time, this independent set of mind has survived to this day, which is why they can be used as a very valued and effective guardian of huge areas and factories. Since the ancient shepherds also compared and measured the strength of their dogs in dog fights during holidays, this legacy has not passed without a trace. This breed is outstandingly dominant and typically attacks other dogs of the same sex. 3. The size and coat of the Central Asian Shepherd. The Central Asian Shepherd is a huge dog, with an average height at the withers of 65 to 95 centimeters and an average weight of 50 to 90 kilograms. Their ancestors were probably smaller, most probably around 50 to 60 kilograms, which made them ideal for hard work. Central Asian Shepherd's coat has a medium length, strong undercoat, which makes it able to withstand both cold and warm weather perfectly. The color of their hair is very varied, it can be white, black or pale, but the most common are spotted, mixed colored. 4. Training of the Central Asian Shepherd. In the training of the Central Asian Shepherds, the most important thing is the early socialization and to teach them to acknowledge the primacy of the owner as soon as possible. All of this is especially important because this independent, dominant breed, especially males, if they feel weakness around themselves or lack control, certainly tend to raise the issue of herd leader replacement, which can create a very problematic situation in adulthood. In their case, well-intentioned indulgence is certainly not a viable option. They must constantly feel who is the boss and pack leader in the house, so their obedience education is also essential. Western type of drill work is not suitable for this breed. They instinctively know their duties, their protective instincts are above the average, or rather, outstanding. 5. The activity of the Central Asian Shepherd. Central Asian Shepherds wandered tens of kilometers a day at a leisurely pace alongside the flocks, adjusting to the pace of the animals being guarded. Extremely persistent and tough, they can keep up the pace even with trotting horse riders for long miles. Keeping them in ideal conditions requires a large space, an area of at least 1,000 square meters, which they can walk around freely, where they can patrol, and which they can feel and protect as their own. Running is not really necessary in their case. The Central Asian is not a sports dog, although they have excellent physical abilities. This breed is not ideal for jumping over obstacles and the so-called modern dog sports. The main goal of their life is work, which they do with full force even in their old age. 6. Health and lifespan of the Central Asian Shepherd. Even though we are talking about a giant dog, Central Asian Shepherds have a surprisingly long lifespan. They typically live for 13 to 15 years. As a legacy of their past, they are a specifically rock-steady healthy breed with no characteristic diseases, and no predisposition to characteristic canine diseases. Due to their weight gain in the last decades, joint problems and diseases and occasionally dysplasia have also appeared among them, but mainly in very large, oversized individuals, but this is still a very rare phenomenon among them. 7. And, finally, the last question. Are Central Asian Shepherds ideal for first-time dog owners? The answer to this question is very definite and in capital letters, with 3 exclamation marks, NO. We have advised this in connection with several breeds, but this is especially true in the case of Central Asian Shepherds. They are a very special breed, It takes experiences and serious dog knowledge to keep them properly. Central Asian Shepherd is not suitable for urban environments and tight spaces. They feel themselves comfortable in really huge spaces, areas where they can work, preserve and protect everything that belongs to their owner. It takes a hard hand to keep them, if a tough and experienced owner is there, and in addition, they receive the due respect they deserve, they accept the priority of the owner and act and behave as one of the most loyal watchdogs. However, if these conditions are not met, this huge, buffalo-strong dog can pose a constant threat to its environment, which should be avoided at all costs. One, a brief history of the Kangal. The Kangal is an ancient Turkish shepherd dog. Its ancestors may have developed in the region what is now central and eastern Anatolia over the past centuries and millennia. Their job was to protect the huge, wandering flocks of domestic animals from almost anything that could pose a threat to the animals, from wolves to other dogs to human invaders. As they were present in large numbers mainly in the vicinity of a town called Kangal, their name also comes from here, although the Turks often call them Karabash, in English black-headed dog, after their characteristic black mask. The Kangals were first recognized by the FCI in 2018 as a standalone breed, previously considered as a subspecies of the Anatolian Shepherd dogs in addition to the White Akbash. In Western Europe and America, fortunately, this breed was completely unknown for a long time, and their export were banned by the Turkish authorities, first appearing in small numbers in the West in the 1960s. As they becomes more popular by today, Kangals are also beginning to meet the negative consequences of mass breeding. 2. The personality of the Kangal. The Kangal is an extremely strong and hardy sheepdog breed that, despite its large stature, is fast and agile. Because they protected flocks on hundreds of thousands of square kilometers over the centuries, this breed has an extremely independent and very strong set of protection instincts. Because Kangals have always been used in packs, and never alone, as a shepherd with a larger flock has kept up to 10 to 20 Kangals for effective work, the Kangals still feel really good in packs to this day, which is true of their human environment as well. They are accepting their owners, but they are hostile and offensive to strangers, be they animals or humans. Although the Kangal is a formidable warrior, and has a really huge biting power, their effectiveness against wolves should be classified as myths for two reasons. On the one hand, Asian wolves in Turkey are much smaller than gray wolves, weighing around 40 to 50 kilograms on average, and on the other hand, Kangals, like other shepherd dogs, were always really effective in a team. 3. Kangal size and coat. Kangal is a large dog breed, according to the Turkish standard. It can have an average height of 71 to 81 centimeters and a weight of 45 to 65 kilograms. Of course, under the influence of fashion, there are much bigger Kangals with bigger weight, but breeders usually say that the huge weight negatively affects their ability to work. In addition, many people confuse them with the Aksaray Malaklis, a more muscular, larger-sized, more guarding-oriented Turkish dog breed. Their coat is short or medium length, dense, with thick undercoat. Depending on the climate, large differences in hair length are possible. 4. The trainability of the Kangal. The Kangal, as mentioned earlier, is a very independent dog breed with a very high level of protection instincts. There is simply no need to train them for area and flock guarding tasks. A Kangal coming out of a good breeder instinctively knows what to do if those around him are in danger. Despite all this, however, it cannot be said that they are not able to do Western type of guard work. We know examples, when the local civil guard personnel use Kangals with great success. Conditioning aggressiveness for Kangals, however, is not recommended, or only in very competent hands, as a spoiled Kangal can be life-threatening to its environment. 5. The activity of Kangals. Also due to their past, Kangal is a breed with a huge need for movement and activities. For millennia, they worked in vast open spaces, covering vast distances daily, adapting to the movement of flocks and the guarded animals. In this dog breed, this legacy has definitely survived to this day. The Kangals are not suitable for being kept indoors or in an apartment. Their lives are complete when they can use their immense energy to work in a large area. In all of this, they are not disturbed by extreme weather conditions either. The Kangals are as agile in the scorching heat and very cold weather, like their ancestors in Anatolia. 6. The health of the Kangal. Despite their large stature, Kangals have a long lifespan, averaging 12 to 14 years. In addition, they can be considered a dog breed of outstanding health, thanks to the fact that they are the, in quotes, end product of a very long period of natural selection, and popularity fortunately reached them late. Dysplasia has appeared in recent decades in individuals weighing above the standard, for which it is worth screening them. 7. And finally, the last question. Is the Kangal ideal for a novice dog owner? The answer to this question is definitely no, as it takes a lot of experience to keep and breed this noble, powerful, freedom-loving, and extremely dominant dog breed. In addition, the Kangals, here we think primarily of males, instinctively senses weakness or lack of power over themselves, and in such cases will attempt to take over pack leadership, a situation which is not an easy task to handle with a dog with such physical abilities. The Kangal is also not ideal for those who cannot provide adequate space and work for this dog, as without these the Kangal is not a Kangal. Confinement and inaction will most certainly lead to a distortion of the dog's personality, which is also undesirable. However, for those who have experience with tough and large dog breeds and can give this dog what has been said before, there are few better choices. If Kangals guarding an area, the owner does not have to fear much from anything.
Two large Turkish Shepherd dogs, the Shivas Kangal and the Aksaray Malakli. Two legendary dog breeds that almost all dog enthusiasts are curious about. How do they compare to each other, in what they differ from each other's? Which one is faster and which is stronger? How did they develop and what were they used for? Of the two breeds, Kangal is undoubtedly better known than the Malakli, about whom, by the way, much has already been said on this channel. The Kangals are named after the town of Kangal in Shivas County in Turkey, a region that is undoubtedly the most serious breeding center of this breed. According to recent DNA research, the ancestors of Kangals might have been the descendants of dogs that once lived in the Kazakh, Kyrgyz, Turkmen, and Uzbek wild territories, who may have entered what is now Turkey with the former nomadic Turkic tribes as accompanying shepherd dogs. This research also refuted earlier theories that the Kangals are the descendants of ancient Molossers, which still appear in materials produced by the Turkish marketing steamroller to this day. In recent centuries, the Kangals have perfectly adapted themselves to the vast spaces of the endless Anatolian plateau and the livestock culture there, perfectly performing their duties in the protection of farm animals alongside the shepherd communities. Since the Asian wolves, which are the main predators in this region, are significantly smaller in size than those of the European gray wolf and the North American timber wolves, they were indeed able to effectively protect themselves and the flocks against them. Kangals have amazing physical abilities, and despite their large stature, they are astonishingly agile and fast, and the strength of their bite is typically among the top 5 dogs with the strongest bite force in all the literature dealing with this topic. In contrast to the Kangals, Aksaray Malaklis, who also known as Aksaray Malaklisi or Malakli Karabağ, is a huge, or giant breed of shepherd dog from the province of Aksaray, Turkey. Although many people colloquially consider them as the larger and heavier versions of the Kangals, precisely the DNA tests mentioned earlier that showed that this is not the case. Despite the Malaklis' black mask and color similarity, they carry a different genetic heritage than Kangals. This is partly reflected in their appearance, since they are much larger, have a differently shaped head with Mastiff-type loose lips, which is not at all characteristic of Kangals. Their tail posture is straight. Moreover, their character is significantly more offensive, dominant and aggressive towards other dogs and strangers. Malaklis have traditionally been used in part for flock guarding duties. According to Turkish sources, a pair of Malaklis were protected a flock of 700 to 800 sheep and they were widespread around cow herds. At the same time, they also played an important part in the preservation of property and territory, as well as in dog fights, which were extremely popular in Anatolia. the main expectations regarding the Malaklis were not primarily speed and agility, but the raw, overwhelming strength and attacking ability, the ability to destroy the foreign, attacking opponents by all means. The role of Malaklis, therefore, unlike Kangals, was not to keep away, chase, and fend off predators around the flocks, but to combat and annihilate aliens who might come close to the flock or the ranch where they served. Considering their size and weight, which can exceed 100 centimeters at the withers and 80 to 90 kilograms in weight, these dogs were not and are not suitable for long-lasting persistent pursuits. If we would like to accurately illuminate the difference between the two breeds with a Second World War analogy, the role of the Kangal can perhaps be compared to that of the light, fast-moving but still very effective Panzer III tanks, while the Malakli is a slow-moving, but deadly Tiger tank with serious armor and weight. Regarding both breeds, it can be said that neither of them are fit for novice or beginner dog owners, neither mimosa souls. They are simply not a good choice for those who believe that from these ancient Turkish Shepherd dogs it is possible to raise doggies, in quotation marks, who can be integrated well into urban surroundings with positive attitude and running them for a few hours a day. For both breeds, their genes encode the past and the expectations that have been placed on them in Anatolia for centuries. If we talk about Kangals, in a previous interview, an expert, who has been working with working shepherd dogs for decades, shared his experience with the European integration trials of Kangals and told us about the problems that Kangals had to face in regions of narrower extent, in the absence of the huge spaces of Anatolia, and what problems they caused to their surroundings. If we are talking about Malaklis, we should not think of a Great Dane, an English or other modern Mastiff breeds, who are close to them in size, but who have become fully socialized, but a rock-hard dog, very distrustful of strangers, with a highly offensive tendency, who do not to tolerate other dogs and other people, which in this sense exceeds the expectations of the average dog owner of our time regarding a guard breed. Malakli is a very serious weapon that does not need to be used. It automatically puts itself into service if they feel that there is any threat to their owner or his family, whether it is other animals or people acting suspiciously to them. And at last, but not least, are those legends true that these two dog breeds are real wolf killers and that these breeds are capable of defeating wolves in a direct confrontation? Well, there is no clear answer to this question, because a lot can depend on the circumstances, the location and, of course, on which subspecies of wolves are involved. According to the realistic accounts of shepherds and shepherd dog breeders who occasionally encounter such situations, especially when it comes to gray wolves of larger stature, no breed of dog can do this on its own. Maybe in a pack, but it's also a very rare case. The task of efficient and properly working shepherd dogs, by the way, is not this, namely to engage the wolves in direct combat, but rather, working in packs, to put so much pressure on the wolf that the wolf, without confrontation, give up further attempts and find easier prey for himself. Of course, any such contacts can turn into an extreme form from time to time and a wolf can fall victim to a pack of shepherd dogs. However, a more common case is that a more daring or solitary shepherd dog falls victim to a wolf or pack of wolves. We do not publish such recordings, as we could easily be placed on YouTube's ban list, but there are many recordings circulating online where the skeletons of a frivolous Kangals killed by wolves are found by their owners in Anatolia, where the wolves living in the region are usually smaller in stature than in Europe or North America. In a confined space, like in an arena, the heavier and stronger Malakli obviously have much higher chances of victory, but such cases do not occur very often in reality, only in marketing films produced by the Turks, with wolves raised in captivity from a young age.
1. A short history of the Komondor. The Komondor has a very impressive history, which can be said of few dog breeds. There is no 100% authentic story about their origin, but it is a widely held belief that the Cumans may have brought them to the Carpathian Basin, the territory of today's Hungary, in the 13th century. In written sources, the name Komondor first appeared in 1549. The Komondor performed herding tasks next to the Hungarian shepherds, and the keepers kept them in such a high esteem that even in the Middle Ages they always tried to maintain a clean line of breeding that was not mixed with any other dog breeds. World War II was a huge break in their history, as most of the Komondors were shot down first by the German, and then the Soviet troops, as the Komondors did not let anyone into the yard of the owner. After the war, only a few dozen specimens survived. From here the breed had to be revived. 2. The personality of the Komondor. The Komondor is a livestock guardian dog breed that is very similar to other shepherd dogs from the East, but also has an independent character. A tough, hardy and extremely strong dog breed who never hesitates to defend the goods entrusted to his care. Their attack is overwhelming, yet they are not as harsh characters like other large-bodied Eastern livestock guardian dog breeds. It is considered a Komondor specialty, for example, that their opponents are not torn apart by the Komondors, but kept on the ground until the arrival of the owner. Despite their hardness, they are surprisingly family-centered, and does not tend to get involved in dominance disputes with their owner. 3. The size and coat of the Komondor. The Komondor is a huge dog, with an average weight of 45 to 60 kilograms, and a typical height of 65 to 78 centimeters. Their huge stature seems even more powerful because of their fur structure, which is the specialty of the Komondors. Usually after the age of 1, long top hairs and the undercoat are assembled into cords that guard and protect Komondors from predator bites as shields. Contrary to beliefs, the care of their hair is not very complicated. It is usually enough to tear up the tufts of hair every 6 months. The fur treated in this way is self-cleaning, and most of the dirt drips from it. In every second summer, shepherds often cut their hair short. The color of the hair can only be white. So there are no black Komondors, contrary to some beliefs. What were said to be black Komondors were the cross of Komondors with black Russian Terriers. 4. The trainability of the Komondor. Throughout the history of the Komondor, they have been bred and selected to do their job perfectly without training, instinctively protecting the animals and goods entrusted to them and their owners. Therefore, guard and protection training is not required in the case of the Komondor. Moreover, the Western type of drill is very far from the personality of this breed, and the Komondors do not perform tasks that seem meaningless for them. An independent and stubborn breed, and Komondor owners and breeders often talk about the so-called sixth sense of Komondors, which mean that they instinctively and perfectly notice and recognize those who approach with malicious intent. 5. The activity of the Komondor. Komondors do not move a lot during the day. They usually keep an eye on their territory and the events that are happening from the shadow or from the highest point of their territory. At night, they switch to a different mode, constantly patrolling their area and noticing any noise. The Komondor doesn't like and doesn't need to run next to the bike or have a long repetitive movement, and that's why it's shocking what lightning-fast reactions they produce in an emergency situation. When attacked from the back, the Komondor can turn 180 degrees in the air when jumping up. 6. The health and lifespan of the Komondor. The average lifespan of Komondors is 10 to 11 years, but there are also individuals who are 12 to 13 years old. They are extremely hardy and healthy breed. They are characterized by few diseases, and they have very few health problems. The previously occurring entropy has almost completely disappeared thanks to the work of the Hungarian Komondor Club. Dysplasia occurs in small numbers, however, of course, as they are an extremely large-bodied breed. Care must be taken to avoid gastric torsions. 7. And finally, the last question. Is the Komondor ideal for first-time dog owners? The Komondor is an extremely strong and dominant dog with a huge force and body, who require a lot of space, patience, and experience to keep, so it is not recommended for a novice dog owner. Those who are looking for a dog for Western-type dog sports, would like to actively go to dog school with their dog, would be strongly discommended from this breed. The Komondor is not suitable for these tasks. They are also not suitable for housekeeping, and for those who would keep their dog on chains, or in very small yards, the Komondor would not bear it in the long run. However, for those looking for a family-friendly, incorruptible area, livestock and family guard dog breed, the Komondor can be one of the best choices.
1. A brief history of the Kuvasz. The exact origin and history of the Kuvasz is unknown, but it says a lot about their history that a dog's skull remains were found in a 900-year-old ancient cemetery inquest excavated in 1978, which is almost 100% identical with the skull of a Kuvasz living today. There are a lot of graves from the 16th century, which indicate that the Kuvasz, or dogs very similar to the Kuvasz, have lived with the Hungarian population for centuries. By the way, in terms of its shape and color, the Kuvasz are perhaps the most descendants, or the closest relatives of the ancient Anatolian Akbash dogs. The word Kuvasz first appeared in written records in 1511. What they were used as guard dogs of the flock and territory for centuries, but they also appeared on noble, royal big game hunts, and even as companion and guard dogs for travelers on chariots. Their conscious breeding began during the 20th century. Today they are definitely among the endangered breeds, so few of them are born every year. 2. The personality of Kuvasz. Kuvasz is a large-bodied, yet agile dog and with a strong will. Throughout their centuries-long history, they have always worked in vast areas, steppes, and seals, which mock them especially lover of freedom, difficult to bear the confinement, lack of task, and limitation of their freedom. If dealt with properly, they can fit well into families, even though they consider a person primarily their owner, to behave as the pack leader. They are extremely distrustful and offensive to strangers wandering into or invading their territory, and no one can withstand the attack of a Kuvasz. If they are kept in close quarters, or closed, or on chains, it can cause negative distortions in their personality and can become aggressive, similarly to other Livestock Guardian dog breeds. 3. The size and coat of the Kuvasz. Kuvasz typically has a height of 65 to 76 centimeters, and an average weight of 40 to 60 kilograms. Their coat can only be white or ivory in color, with a wavy texture, and a mane is usually present on males around the neck and on the chest. The reason for the light coat color, by the way, is that it was especially important in the past so that in the fight against the attacking predators, their owners could always identify their dogs, even in the dark. Due to their fur structure, they can withstand both summer heat and cold winter weather without any problem. 4. The trainability of the Kuvasz. Kuvasz is a surprisingly intelligent and trainable dog breed. Although not necessarily typical of large shepherd dogs, fanatics of the breed have achieved excellent guard and protective work results and quite high degrees of obedience level. Their early socialization before the age of 2 years is of paramount importance, as the grim-natured Kuvasz must learn and accept the absolute priority of the owner, which, if well socialized, is a natural thing for the Kuvasz. By the way, the Kuvasz does not have to be trained to perform their field guarding tasks, as for centuries they had to make independent decisions in most delicate situations, protecting their owners and the family of the owner even at the cost of their life. 5. The activity of the Kuvasz. As already mentioned, because of its past, the Kuvasz dog require a lot of activities. Despite their large size, they are athletic in movement, and have a distinctly muscular build, and these huge muscles need to be used and maintained. A Kuvasz in a good condition can run well even in the long run, for several tens of kilometers. Here, of course, do not think of a gallop like a speed. We have personally seen Kuvashes accompanying riders, who kept pace with the trotting horses for long miles. All this is not a surprise, as in their past they guarded vast areas and, as a faithful companion of the Hajduks, herded and accompanied large cattle herds which were taken on foot from the Hungarian plains to Vienna, or even to Germany. 6. The health and lifespan of the Kuvasz. The typical lifespan of Kuvasz is 12 to 13 years, which corresponds to the average lifespan of large-bodied shepherd dogs. Kuvashes have an iron health. The typical Kuvasz disease that is specific to them is not known at all. Of course they are screened for dysplasia and various eye diseases, but even these are very rare among them. 7. And finally, the last question, is the Kuvasz a good choice for a novice dog owner? The answer to this question is definitely no for an absolute beginner. Kuvasz is a tough and protective shepherd dog breed with a hard and lively temperament. Their breeding and keeping requires experience, determination and consistency, and a hard hand, which can be tough for a first dog owner, and most likely a beginner does not have these experiences. However, if someone have already dealt with dominant and large dogs, and have enough space, the Hungarian Kuvasz can be one of the most recommended breeds. They are the quintessence of centuries of hard selection, an ancient breed with enormous physical strength and very stable nervous system strain, whose popularity has been neglected in recent decades due to the unworthy and negative stereotypes associated with them. Fortunately, something has changed in the past decades, as more and more Kuvasses are exported, for example, to Canada, where they guard large territories and big farms against predators, like wolves and bears, very effectively. Yet, because of their abilities, instincts, and outstanding work ethic, they represent a very rare and valuable asset in the world of dogs. One, a brief history of the Sarplaninac. The exact origin of the Sarplaninac is unknown, and sinologists say its ancestors may have come to this region along with the population flowing from Asia to the Balkans region. They can be found most densely around the Sarplanina, or Sar Mountains, what is now belongs to Macedonia, where for centuries their task was to guard the livestock and flocks of the population who lives there, and there is no room for farming, lived on animals. They had to guard their livestock against all wild animals effectively, like wolves, lynx and bears, who are all common in that area. However, as history has reversed all sorts of nations through the Balkans, the Sarplaninacs also had to stand up effectively against the two-legged opponents and robbers. The breed was first registered by the FCI in 1954, first as Illyrian Shepherd dogs, and later, the name changed to Jugoslavian Shepherd dogs. Among others, the Slovenians also consider them to be their own breed, and they call them as the Crossy Shepherd dogs. 2. The personality of the Sarplaninac. The Sarplaninac is a dog breed with an extraordinary independent and above-average protective instinct and abilities. Their basic qualities include, on the one hand, a very high degree of distrust and distancing towards strangers, and, on the other hand, an unconditional attachment to the owner and his family, which is almost a worship in their case. As the standards say it strictly, the Sarplaninac should be an enraged beast against the attackers and a humble servant to the family. According to the descriptions, they are amazingly effective fighters, persistent and fast, despite their stature, and there are few opponents against them among dogs and smaller predators in a fighting position. 3. The size and coat of the Sarplaninac. The speciality of the Sarplaninac is that they are one of those dog breeds where the standard really only sets the lower values in terms of their height and weight. Males should not be less than 55 centimeters in height and females should not be less than 54 centimeters, because in this case they are excluded from breeding. Their weight typically varies between 35 and 70 kilograms, with a recent shift in emphasis to larger specimens. Their characteristic color is metallic gray or dark gray, their coat is medium long, their undercoat is extremely dense, and resistant to almost any weather conditions from heavy rains to extreme colds. 4. Trainability of the Sarplaninac. As mentioned earlier, Sarplaninac is a remarkably independent breed, which is a trait that many in the canine world of our modern age tend to call stubbornness. Yet this is not the case, as for centuries they have been expected to fully assess the danger of a situation in the absence of their owners, not to wait for orders, but to make a good decision in a given situation and divert the danger effectively. This breed has been selected for this purpose, and is excellent in these tasks, like few others. They are also suitable for Western type of guard and protection training, as they were also used by the Yugoslav army, and presently used by the Serbian one, but modern dog sports are not for them. 5. The activity of the Sarplaninac. These dogs do not require too much movement, quite similarly to other large shepherd dog breeds, they prefer to explore their area thoroughly and regularly. Regardless of this, however, they can cover surprisingly long distances, even in their old age they can run long kilometers next to a bicycle, and in case of emergency, they switch to another mode, they ignite missiles, and are capable of explosive attacks. 6. Health and lifespan of the Sarplaninac. Their average lifespan is 12 to 13 years and, fortunately, due to their past, they are a still mostly healthy breed to this day. As the breeders say, this breed was brought down from the mountains not long ago, and is not characterized by too many diseases of civilization. Since it is a breed that consumes almost all foods extremely well and utilize food sources efficiently, with surprisingly low food rations compared to their stature, you should be very careful to overfeed them with, in quotes, modern, commercial dog kibbles. They tend to serious bloat when overfed with so-called factory-made modern foods, so this is highly not recommended and avoidable in their case. 7. And finally, the last question. Is the Sarp recommended for a novice dog owner? Many Sarplaninac breeders believe that this dog breed is suitable for the first dog owners with no former experiences, because if one does not understand and have experiences with dogs, can learn from this breed what is worth knowing, and if the future owner is experienced, then he will find what he is looking for. Almost everyone who deals with this breed points out that these dogs, unlike other large-bodied shepherd dogs, like Caucasian Shepherds, are not inclined to override the line of orders within the family and will never attempt to take over the pack leadership. Nonetheless, the Sarplaninac is a very strong, large-bodied, self-deciding breed that is distrustful of others and has a high level of protective instincts, so for a novice dog owner it is very important to think over twice that they are the ideal companions for an inexperienced owner. It is true that the owner will certainly never be harmed because of their brilliant character, but whether their environment will survive the encounter with an uncontrolled Sarplaninac is another question. 1. A brief history of the Tibetan Mastiff. Researchers of the breed indicate Tibet, China, India and Nepal as the place of origin of the Tibetan Mastiffs, in addition to which we must definitely mention Mongolia. To the best of our knowledge, they may have appeared in these regions about 4,000 years ago, but have been used primarily around the Himalayan mountains and for millennia primarily to guard flocks in territories under extremely harsh conditions. They have already been mentioned in several ancient and then medieval sources, like Marco Polo, who mentioned them several times. Basically, two types are known: the larger Sangkai, which is more characteristic of the southern parts of the region, and the Drokai, which is more common in the higher areas. In addition, a smaller version is existing in Mongolia, who are called Bankhars. 2. The personality of the Tibetan Mastiff. The Tibetan Mastiff is a dog breed of extraordinary strength and very strong will, characterized by a very high degree of autonomy. For thousands of years, they have been selected to solve their tasks on their own, in most cases without human help, and in any situation they had to decide whether it could be dangerous to the owner, to the owner's family, and the goods entrusted to their care, such as livestock animals. Think it over: if a Tibetan Mastiff didn't do his job well, and an attacking beast slaughtered the livestock, well, that family later starved to death. To this day, their personality is characterized by this trinity: above the average independence, very strong guard and protective instincts, and unconditional respect for the family. 3. Size and coat of the Tibetan Mastiff. The Tibetan Mastiff is a huge dog, typically, with an average weight of 40 to 70 kilograms and a height at the withers of 61 to 76 centimeters. The fur of the Tibetan Mastiff is extremely dense and rich. Its undercoat is well developed and resistant to almost any cold temperatures. Its coat is self-cleaning and there are many color variations. The most common is black and tan, but there are also different shades of black and red. In case of the black and tan versions, there are 2 dots above their eyes, and a smaller white spot may appear on the chest. 4. Trainability of the Tibetan Mastiff. As mentioned earlier, the Tibetan Mastiff is a remarkably independent breed, which is sometimes called stubbornness in today's modern dog world. Although the owner and his family is accepted, it is undoubtedly true that Tibetan Mastiffs tend to override a single order and replace it with an independent decision, especially if they perceive a situation to be more dangerous than their owner. In this sense, from today's point of view, they are dogs that are difficult to train, and Western type of obedience and drill training are not at all effective in connection with them. In their long history, this has never been the expected from them. In today's sense, dog sports are absolutely not suitable for them as their character is so different and unique. 5. The activity of the Tibetan Mastiff. This breed does not require too much activities. Similarly to other big-sized shepherd dog breeds, usually they track events from the highest point in their area. However, in the event of an emergency, their reactions are surprisingly quick. Their attack is overwhelming and irresistible. There is no need for regular, long runs or hours of walks in their case. This is not required by them. However, their enormous stature should not deceive anyone. Tibetan Mastiffs are sometimes capable of acrobatic stunts, and there are several descriptions about them that they even jump through a lower fence without any difficulty if they deem the situation necessary. 6. The health and lifespan of the Tibetan Mastiff. Their average lifespan is 10 to 12 years and, fortunately, due to their past, they are still a mostly healthy breed to this day. In recent decades, unfortunately, in some respects, they have also become fashion dogs, and oversized giant dogs have come to the fore, developed mainly by Chinese breeders. Unfortunately, various forms of dysplasia and other diseases associated with large-bodied breeds also appeared among these specimens. 7. And finally, the last question: is the Tibetan Mastiff a good choice for a novice dog owner? Although some Tibetan Mastiff breeders also recommend this breed to first-time dog owners, we only partially agree with this view. The previously mentioned independence of this fantastic breed and its extremely powerful guard and protective instincts can certainly give up the lesson for a beginner who have no earlier experiences with strong-willed and large-bodied breeds. In addition, the Tibetan Mastiff is also not recommended for those who live an active social life, with a frequent and large number of arriving guests, as this breed of dog do not tolerate strangers in its territory. The ideal owner of the Tibetan Mastiff has a large area and is a persistent and patient person. He is persistent to learn how to handle this dog of special character properly, and is patient, as the full maturation process of Tibetan Mastiffs really ends at the age of 3 to 4 years.